Time for a recap of the Bengals preseason game, August 14th, Saturday night at Raymond James Stadium against the world champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And I was impressed with how the Bengals handled the energy and enthusiasm of a rabid fan base on the road, even though it's the preseason. Telling you that these fans were ready. The last time that they saw their Buccaneers play was at Raymond James Stadium when they won the Super Bowl. They were the first NFL team ever to win a Super Bowl at their home stadium. So they were ready to celebrate, and the fans were up in the bit, as they say. And Tom Brady led the team out for warm-ups, and you would have thought that the President of the United States had shown up. I mean, he got a royal welcome. There's no question about that. And then when he went out there to start the game, the first series, the place was off the hook. They were going nuts. And a very short series, defense did a great job. Joseph Osai got his first sack. It's not going to count in NFL stats. Preseason games don't count, but he'll be able to tell his son and grandson that his first NFL sack came against the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Tom Brady. Took him down to end that drive. And so the way that they quieted the crowd, handled it, and played pretty effectively, particularly defensively, is a pretty good thing. You know, I don't care if it's a scrimmage. You know, it's a cut above a scrimmage with a preseason game, like it is, and guys trying to win jobs. But it was good to see the Bengals handle business the way they handled it. Unfortunately, Joseph Osai, it seems like he's got a fractured wrist, a broken wrist. So he had a cast on as he was boarding the plane after the game last night. He's going to get further tests, MRIs, and that sort of thing done. But if it does reveal that he's got a broken bone, a fracture of some sort, I would think in these instances they perform surgery to help expedite the healing process. And, you know, maybe with surgery like that, he could make the opener. That's very, very feasible. Of course, he'd have a cast on, but then you're allowed to have a cast and pad it up in the National Football League. But then he'd be playing with a club as such, and now you lose the ability to use your hands and grab, which is a big part of what defensive linemen have to do. So, unfortunately, injuries like that happen, and Joseph Osai is going to be dealing with a little adversity. But, boy, he really showed that he can come off the edge. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were on the sideline. The coaches were like, 58? Who's 58 now? Where's that rookie? Where's he from? And Joseph Osai was like, his welcome to the National Football League was pretty good. 6'4", 255, third round pick out of Texas. He can do it off the edge. Cam Sample stepped up, another draft pick out of Tulane, 6'5", 6'3", about 265, 270. He had a sack to end the football game. The guy that was kind of the star of the game, though, Darius Hodge, another rookie, 6'1", 245 pounds, in that range. He's out of Marshall, and this guy has got some natural pass rush abilities, and he's not obviously real tall. Neither is Aaron Donald, and I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald, but I'm saying that sometimes guys with that low center of gravity can really do some things. It's hard to get your pad level down to where they are, and they've got unbelievable strength with that with their lower bodies. And Darius Hodge was doing it in training camp against, you know, Jonah Williams and guys of that caliber. He had a sack and a half in the game, three total tackles, a sack and a half to boot. He showed up, he flashed. So now he was playing in the third and fourth quarter mostly of the football game. He was a situational guy. I guess I remember in the second quarter as well. But now you might want to move him up as early as you can in the football game to get a real good evaluation of him. And that might not happen until preseason game number 3, because with only 3 preseason games, preseason game 2, the next one coming up here against the Washington football team, that's going to be what the preseason game 3 used to be. And that's the dress rehearsal for the season. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, quote, starters play a good part of the first half, quite a few of them anyway, cool down, warm back up, play a little bit in the third quarter. So because you have to get them ready for the season and use one of those preseason games to do that. I think preseason game number 3 will be for all the guys that they're still evaluating, you know, the lower end of the roster, who's going to make the team. And that's based on their performance probably in that final preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. That'll be televised nationally by CBS, and their play for the team at the line of scrimmage, offensively and defensively, have a big input, as well as special teams. They will have a major input. And speaking of special teams, unfortunately, the Bengals did not have Darren Simmons, their coach, last night. He lost his dad to a battle with cancer, only 71 years old. Sad. And he was back in Kansas taking care of the family situation back there. A very, very tough dynamic. There's no question about it. And Colt Anderson, the assistant special teams coach, and Louis Chofi, who'd been on the Bengals staff prior, he's back as a defensive assistant. They handled the special teams during the course of the game, the opener against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Darren Simmons, courtesy of Zoom, was heavily involved during the course of the preparation for this first preseason game. So it's not like Darren Simmons was totally absentee. And in my opinion, I'd give the game ball. You beat, it's only a preseason game, but you beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 19-14. And now what Darren Simmons is going through with his family and what he's meant to the organization for as long as he has, I'd give him the ball. I don't know. I'd do some sort of gesture like that. I think it'd be greatly appreciated by he and his family. But let's take a look at some of the other guys that had a major contribution in the preseason game. I talked about those three young defensive linemen. They combined for 3 sacks. 3 of the 4 sacks came from those guys. So actually, all 4 of them. Osai had 1. Hodge had a sack and a half. That's 2.5. Bledsoe had a half a sack. So they end up with 3.5 of the sacks, and Bledsoe had a half, a combination half with Hodge, and Sample had the other sack. They got 4 quarterback sacks and gave up none. So that was a big plus. You win the line of scrimmage like that. A lot of times, you're going to win the football game in terms of protecting and pressuring quarterbacks. That's always a big deal in the football game. During the course of training camp, we've spoken over and over again about how the Bengals defense is playing 11 as one. I mean, they're just playing great football as a unit, making it tough on the Bengals offense. Well, it carried over. It wasn't just something that was on the practice field. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers could get nothing done against the Bengals defense. 29 yards rushing on 17 attempts, 1.7 per rush. The longest run of the day was 7 yards. They didn't have a play of over 18 yards. That was the longest play of the day. No explosives whatsoever. I mean, they totally kept everything in front of them, contained it. I mean, they only gave up 159 yards offense for the entire game. That's pretty remarkable. In any situation, you're talking National Football League. On 60 snaps, they gave up 159 yards, 2.7 yards per play. I'm not talking about per rush. I'm talking about per snap, 1.7 yards per rush. And, they were dominated time of possession. The Bengals had the ball for 8.5 more minutes than Tampa Bay did. And really the defense just snap in and snap out. Did a great job. Offensively, it wasn't totally clean, totally polished like you'd like. The big problem that they had was giveaways. They had 4 giveaways. Defensively, 3 takeaways though. That's a plus, but still finished -1 on the turnover department. But the defense did have a stop on 4th down. Tampa Bay won for it on 4th down, and anytime that happens, in my opinion, that's equivalent to a turnover because there's change of possession and there's no kick involved. You get the ball right there, and you win that field position. You get the ball right at the line of scrimmage that you made the play out on 4th down when you stop them like that. So in my mind, it evened it out, even Steven, although technically, officially in the turnover department, the Bengals finished -1. But it was how the turnovers occurred. They got into the red zone 3 straight possessions. On 2 of the possessions, it ended on turnovers in the red zone. You can't give the ball up in the red zone. I mean, you're driving the football, you're acquiring advantageous field position, you're in range to score points. So 2 giveaways in the red zone inside the 20-yard line, that's at least 6 points, maybe as many as 16, theoretically, if you go for 2, but say 14 points. So it's anywhere between 6 and 14 points that you're just giving away. And then, of course, offensively, they had a pick 6 as well. Shermer had a pick 6. So defensively, they gave up 159 yards and 6 points on the night. That's going to win you a lot of football games at any level. Offensively, you got to clean it up. You know, you got to don't put yourself on your schedule. Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl last year. They're good enough to beat you. You don't need to help them. Take yourself off your schedule. No self-destruction with turnovers, and particularly ill-timed and ill-advised. You know, pick sixes are going to hurt you every single time, and turning the ball over when you're in the red zone going into score, that's going to hurt you over and over again as well. Red zone needs to get cleaned up. The Bengals were 1 for 4 in the red zone, 25% conversion rate. That's not going to cut it. Like we just said, 2 of those opportunities were wasted because of giveaways. So a lot of things to work on. Penalties. Both teams were penalized, you know, significant amount. That's where Tampa Bay self-destructed big time. They had some very, very costly penalties when the Bengals scoring drives by the Bengals, touchdown and field goal drives they had. Drives were extended by penalty. So the self-destruction by the Buccaneers in the second half with turnovers. In the first half was very, very costly and untimely penalties. So a lot of those things happened in preseason game number 1. There's no question about it. I think defensively, I don't think the Bengals gave up more than 3 yards on first down the entire night. It was amazing. Their first down success on defense was outstanding. And but it didn't convert to third down. A lot of times first down success leads to third down success. At one point, Tampa Bay in the first half was 5 for 6 on third down, even though the Bengals were getting them in a lot of second and third and long situations. I can remember 2 distinct drives where Tampa converted on 3rd and 10. And that's where you want to get them. You want to get them on 3rd and 7 or more and get off the football field. And Tampa Bay was able to make a couple of plays. And that's life in the NFL. They get paid too. But overall, the Bengals won field position. They did not win the turnover battle, but in my mind, like I said, with the stop on 4th down, it's pretty even. They go -1, but that 4th down, the Bengals didn't have any 4th down stops against them, and they got one against Tampa Bay. They had 303 yards offense to 159. So, you know, they almost doubled what Tampa Bay was able to generate. And overall, other than the injury to Osai, and I hope there are no other significant injuries to talk about, pretty good first performance by the Cincinnati Bengals, particularly on the defensive side of the football. The physicality, I thought, was really good. And I think, again, dealing with what was happening with the crowd celebrating, they were still not hung over from the Super Bowl win. They were still celebrating that Super Bowl win. That crowd was ready to have some fun, and the Bengals changed things, and that's a very, very positive sign. Life in the NFL is demanding, taxing mentally and physically. You only have 6 days till the next game. We landed in Cincinnati about 3 a.m., a little after 3 a.m., sometime between 3 and 3:30, as I recall. I don't know, I'm having a hard time recalling. At my age, staying up all night isn't something that I try to do very often, but just about stayed up. I woke up early on game day for whatever reason, a little after 5 in the morning, and didn't go to bed till 5 in the morning the following day after the game. So it was a long night, short morning, but it was worth it. It was fun. Football's back, and now that all the players have to get their rest and get their bodies right, because 6 days after the game in Tampa, and you're on the road and travel, and you get to deal with losing all those hours sleep. So on Friday, you kick off in Washington. There's only going to be 2 significant practices that will probably have pads involved, and where you can really work on making some improvements. The process now is the coaches are dissecting, and I mean dissecting this game film, because this is a big evaluation time, and they're going to make corrections. There wasn't any game plan as such, but it was good to see. I know one thing that Zach Taylor wanted to try to get done was get all his receivers a touch, the big 3, and he was able to do that. We talked about how good Chase is going to be in the screen game, and I said, man, I'd screen him to death. Well, the ball that went to Chase was a screen, and I'll tell you, Jonah Williams can get out in front and do a pretty good job. He wasn't on. He had a pretty good block on Chase's opportunity. He had another screen where he blocked defensive back knocked him down. DB got up, tried to hustle and pursue. He knocked him down a second time. So Jonah Williams is athletic out in space. He's not a big stiff out there. But they got Chase involved with a screen where he had 16 yards after the reception of the football. Tyler Boyd had a 15-yard catch on third down in the middle of the football field that was pretty good. And then T. Higgins had one for 11 yards. So all the big three got their hands on the football, and then they checked out. Another couple of offensive guys that shone brightly for the Bengals. Patrick at running back, 71 yards, averaged 4.7 per. The Bengals only had one play of over 20 yards themselves until the final drive. And on that final drive, they had two plays of 20 yards almost back-to-back. Evans had a screen pass that he took and smartly stayed in bounds. He went out of bounds when he shouldn't have in an earlier drive, but on this drive when he had the big screen and converted a first down, 22 yards, and made sure he cut back inside, stayed in bounds, kept the clock running. Patrick busted a run for 24 yards. So on back-to-back plays, they had two plays of 20 yards or more, and they were only able to generate one before that. And that was a catch by Michael Thomas, for 22 yards earlier in the football game. Another guy that shone bright in my eyes was Chris Evans. And his numbers don't reflect it. He only had 25 yards on 12 carries, but he had four more catches for 33 yards, including that 22-yard reception that was a big factor in closing out the football game. With 6 minutes left in the game, the Bengals went into their 4-minute drill. And the 4-minute drill is you're trying to take as much time off the clock and move the chains, get first downs, keep the clock up, and try to end the game on the victory formation, taking a knee. And the Bengals almost did pull it off. And Thomas, and a big factor in that success was Patrick running the football as successfully as he did. I mean, the kid is 6'3", 230-plus pounds, and he can motor. I mean, he's a physical kid. And all these guys, they're putting good tape out there, not only for the Cincinnati Bengals to evaluate, but all 31 other teams to evaluate. And like we said so many times, there's 16 practice squad possibilities on every single team. You multiply 32 by 16, you're getting up there. There's 400 jobs out there that guys are going to be scrapping for. So, you're trying to put that kind of tape out there for people to see. Chris Evans, though, I wanted to see him run the football. I know he can run routes like a receiver. I know he can catch the ball like a receiver, a la Giovanni Bernard. But, man, he had a couple of tight spin moves where, he reminded me of the late, great Essex Johnson, who put his foot in the ground and just spin and go north and south in a heartbeat. And Evans had a couple of beauties. So his runs were very congested, a lot of short yardage goal line type things where you're not going to be able to bust it for big yards, but he got all the blue-collar, dirty yards and did it in kind of flashy fashion. I thought he made a big, big impact. So Patrick and Evans, they got an opportunity because, unfortunately, in the National Football League, when you talk about injuries, they do occur. And Travion Williams, the running back from Texas A&M that had some bright moments last year for the Bengals running the football, he pulled his hamstring on Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, right at the very end of practice, and tweaked it, came out of the practice situation, and told the trainers and his running back coach that he had a hamstring problem. They put the ice packs on him right away, the ice bags, and wrapped him up. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to travel, wasn't able to play. So in those situations, you don't want to get an opportunity because of another guy's problems, be an injury. But when it presents itself, you got to capitalize. And Evans and Patrick both did. They both get carries that Travion Williams would have had. So now it's a real battle. It's a real battle at that running back position for the final roster spot. How many are they going to keep? They're going to keep 4. They're going to only keep 3. Who's going to be the third? And then the wide receiver position, we talked about the battle of the Trents more than once. Trent Irwin shows up. This kid makes plays. He had a big 17-yard catch where he gets smoked at the conclusion of the play. He took a big shot, held onto the football. He had a punt return for 13 yards, had the longest punt return of anybody in the game. His only opportunity to return, he took it for 13 yards. That's one less first down the offense has to worry about. After he made that big catch and took that big hit, about 3 plays later when the drive ended, they kicked the field goal. He is on the kickoff team. He's run down there and make the tackle. So he had a big play to put him in field goal range. They execute the field goal, and he goes out there on special teams and ends the kickoff return with the tackle, solo tackle. So those are the kind of things that the Trents are going to have to do. They're going to have to show themselves as guys that can play in the slot, can play outside if need be, and can they contribute on special teams. So Trent Taylor, the other Trent, is a return guy, and Irwin is trying to show that he's a return guy as well as a good cover guy. So that battle is raging right there. It's going to be very interesting. How many receivers will they keep? Are they going to keep 6? Are they going to keep 5? They're going to keep 7? Practice squad opportunities, of course, will increase that number closer to 7, obviously. But it's there are serious battles going on at the running back position, at the tight end position, at the wide receiver position. So as the preseason unfolds, keep your eyes on what's happening there. I thought the secondary all night long provided good coverage. I didn't really notice any jailbreak situations where guys didn't read the route combinations properly and let guys, drop guys in coverage and guys are just running wide open down the football field. Didn't see any of that. So they've been sticky. There's no question on Bengals wideouts during the course of training camp, and it carried over to the game. And those are the things you like to see. Will your practice habits carry over to the game field? Will your techniques you've been working on and the execution of those techniques carry over to the game field? And in a lot of cases, particularly defensively, they certainly did. So all in all, Lou Anarumo has to be very excited. Brian Callahan has to be like, we're okay. We have a lot of work to do. And will Joe Burrow play in the preseason? I think that if he does play in the preseason, it's going to be in that third preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. And I think it'll be a very, very brief appearance. But just like Tom Brady, when he came out at the beginning of that football game, the crowd went wild. If Joe Burrow comes running out at the beginning of the football game to take the first series, don't say only 3 snaps, crowd goes crazy, gets the energy in the stadium pumped up a little bit, hand the ball off a couple of times and run a screen pass and make sure that nobody's around Joe to affect anything physically. But just let him get out there, be in the huddle, get the communication from the coaches, look at his teammates' faces in the huddle. It's NFL action, it's game speed. I think that's important, and I think if you protect him with your play calling, I think that's a box that can be checked. It can be checked very easily, but I don't think it's going to happen in Washington. That's the scene of the crime. That's where it took place, the injury, and I don't think they're going to be going that route potentially. So I think if he does play at all in the preseason, it might be in preseason game number 3. We shall see. I thought another nice touch that Zach Taylor did, and he really has a good feel for this with his players. He had a couple of veteran players get up and address the team. Trey Hopkins was an undrafted free agent who initially made the football team back in his rookie year 6 years ago. The practice squad was on the practice squad for a couple of years. Broke through, started games initially at the guard position. He won the starting center job, and now it's his job. And so he got up and talked to all of his teammates about his journey and how it was a journey of adversity. Nothing was handed to him. And I think those are impressive messages. And Ricardo Allen was a 5th round pick. And Ricardo Allen, initially as a 5th round pick, didn't make the football team that drafted him. And he came back and the Atlanta Falcons gave him a chance. And he goes to the Super Bowl playing for the Atlanta Falcons, and they lose the football game to the New England Patriots. But that's another story. If you're a late round pick, don't give up on yourself. So I thought that those 2 guys didn't play in the football game, but they did travel, and they got up and they addressed the team. And then in the team meetings that they had at the hotel before they went over to the stadium, and had a very good, strong, powerful message. And I think Zach Taylor understands that it coming from player to player has a lot more impact and a lot more significance than it is coming in a relayed message from coach to player as such. So I thought that was a nice touch as well. A lot of things happened down there in Tampa Bay, and Bengals had a very interesting journey. and overnight, a long flight back, taking up most of the night. And I'm sure there's a few guys that are tired and sore today, trying to get all the lactic acid out of their body and get ready. Because like I said, 6 days from now, or 5 days from now, on Friday night in D.C. against the Washington football team, preseason game number 2. Who's going to make it? Who won't? We'll see.
Hi, Dave Lapham here. Have you heard about In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics? Catch new episodes from the world of sports and broadcasting. Search for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.